top 5 things I would do to prepare my mind for birth. My name is Lady Mary Gorski. I'm a birth and postpartum doula and a childbirth educator. And I love to come on here and give people some tips to make their births quicker, faster, and easier. So these are some of the things that I would do in order to make my birth easier. The first thing I would do is a birth education. So what does this mean? I would take birth courses. I would tour your hospital. I would do all of the things that would put your mind at ease. I would take the hospital birth course and I would take an independent birth course as well. Taking a doula-led birth course is sometimes helpful because it's helpful in learning how to advocate for yourself, and taking the hospital-led birth course is also helpful because you kind of know what you're dealing with what you're going to be told with pushbacks and things like that. Now, I will say that sometimes the hospital-led birth courses are a little more lenient than what the hospital policies are, but when you're there, you can specifically ask what the hospital policies are. With these birth classes, I would really focus on pain management techniques and pain management things such as the epidural and getting all of the education and all of these things, because I feel like the biggest fear is in the pain management. The biggest fear is, what do I do when these contractions really ramp up? So the pain management portions of these birth classes are really what you want to focus on. There's many other important things as well, just learning about birth and things like that. But in my experience with my clients, pain management is what the biggest fear things are. Like, I really don't want an epidural, but I don't know if I'll be able to handle the contractions. An epidural is going to be a game day decision. I really don't want one. I really want to, ride the waves of the contractions. So for me, I focus on giving education all the way across the board, even on the epidural. If my client says they don't want the epidural, I still educate them on the epidural. For the simple fact is, when you're in there, sometimes you change your mind, and that's okay. There's no right or wrong answer to your pain management techniques, but that's a really big one that I think that you should focus on. Another really important thing that I have my clients do to prepare their minds for birth is making a birth plan. Birth plans are a little controversial, especially on, the internet. People are like, my birth plan was just not to die. And that's fine. A birth plan is not so that you can control every portion of your birth. It's so that you can educate yourself on your options. So when you're in there and something happens, you can be like, oh, this was covered in that birth planning course that Birth with a Voice had. And these are my options. And even though I chose this option, these are some other options that I learned about. In my birth planning template, I always have on there emergency situations. So first we do your ideal birth, and then we go into, all right, so what happens if you potentially need an emergency C-section? What happens if the baby potentially has to go to the NICU? Because I've had all these things happen to me, and I am a planner, and I could not plan any of these things. So I try to help with all of those things. And then at the end of the day, it's just a little bit of education, a little bit of a little bit more empowerment for you so that your mind is like, okay, I'm ready. A well thought out birth team is really crucial to having yourself put together in the labor and delivery room. What does this mean? So it does not necessarily mean you have to hire a doula. That is not what that means to have a well thought out birth team. What it means is the people that you want with you when that baby is born, you need to have it, have those people ready and have those people asked and have those people on call. So it's going to be likely your partner. It could be a doula. It could be a sibling. It could be your mom. It could be your aunt. It could be anybody who you look for in stressful situations. I will say in most places you can have 2 and the doula doesn't count as 1. And a doula is really a valuable tool, because what I tell all of my clients is whoever is in there loves everybody in that room. And in an emergency situation, it's really hard to stay cool, calm, collected, and explain things to you. Whereas the doula can help do those things. I was a doula at my best friend's birth, and I have to tell you that was the hardest birth I've ever done. I went home and cried for hours afterwards. It was really hard to stay cool, calm, and collected because I literally loved everybody in that room. I always end up becoming very close with my clients, becoming friends with my clients, but it's easier for me to have a little bit of clarity with my clients than it was with my best friend. So sometimes it does help to have somebody who has like one step out and can give you a little bit of clarity with things that are going on. Another thing that I think everybody should have in their labor and delivery room are my informed consent flashcards. Yes, specifically mine. And I'm not trying to make any kind of sale or anything. They are completely free. So if you want them, leave a comment below and I will get them to you. In these informed consent flashcards, there are questions that you should ask before every test and procedure. There's a reminder of, using your brain, which is benefits, risks, alternatives, intuition, and nothing. All of the things that I teach and tell you to remember are on these flashcards. And I think that it's important that you have little reminders because they just go into your birth binder or they just go into your, your bag. And they're just little reminders of important things to do during your birth. Another thing that I think everybody should have in their labor and delivery room is my birth partner guide. What I have is, and I give to all of my clients, is something called the birth partner guide, which it basically breaks down what your partner should be doing in each stage of labor. Because we're not born knowing what to do, and it is kind of hard, especially when it's your first baby, on what to do. And this guide breaks it all down. If you want my guide, leave a comment below. I will send it to you for free. This week only, I will send it to you for free. So please do not miss that. My birth partner guide is something that I think is very valuable to have. And then this way, your birth partner is a little more confident as well in the labor and delivery room. I know I said 5 things, and I think I'm beyond 5 things. I kind of haven't been counting. But another thing that I think that you should have is a provider that is aligned with your views. And this is something that if you're already pregnant and pretty far along, you may not be able to have. But if you are in your first or second trimester, this is something that you can potentially get. I know not everywhere has a lot of hospitals. I live in the Philadelphia area, so there are a lot of options when it comes to birth. Unfortunately, we have a birth center closing now, so our options are getting a little bit smaller, but we still have a lot of options. And when you go to any provider, you should ask questions. You should ask very important questions, which are on my informed consent flashcards. And you should interview them because at the end of the day, they're doing a job for you. I'm not saying that every person on earth wants an unmedicated vaginal birth. Not everybody wants that. But you should be sure that your provider aligns with your views. So if that's something that you want, look at the rate of C-sections at your hospital. Look at the rate of things at your hospital. If you're not worried about those things, then that's also okay. But if you want somebody who's a little less holistic and a little more, medical, also ask the questions because it's important to know that you're getting somebody that supports exactly what you want. When it comes to this, I'm not saying there's a right way. I'm not saying there's a wrong way. And I'm not saying everybody has to, be somebody who doesn't want medical interventions or anything like that. But you don't want to go somewhere that if that's what you want, that they're gonna, hold off on those things. So everybody should be interviewing their provider to make sure you all align. As always, leave a comment below if you are interested in any of my guides. And I always hope that you birth with a voice. And I hope that you come back next week for another video to educate you further in the birthing process. So leave a like, give a follow, leave a comment, and I can keep giving, these free birth resources.